I have lived long enough in the markets to know this: men do not lose because the market is cruel, nor because the tape lies, nor because the tide of speculation turns against them in some hidden way they could never foresee. No, they lose because they will not obey the one rule that keeps a trader alive when all else has failed. The rule is not a secret, though most treat it like some idle superstition of the old-timers. They see it written, they hear it spoken, and yet they dismiss it as if it were too simple to be worth their faith. And so they break it. They break it again and again, and the market exacts its fee. But legend's the few who endure long enough to leave their mark live by that rule. They guard it like a man guards his life. They follow it when it seems foolish, when it feels humiliating, when it breaks every stubborn bone in their body to submit to it. And because they do, they endure while the crowd perishes. Tell me, do you want to stand with the crowd or with the few? I learned early that the market has no sympathy for opinions. Your conviction means nothing, your feelings mean nothing, your need for money means less than nothing. The market will not reward you for trying harder, for hoping stronger, for digging in your heels. Yet nearly every trader behaves as if his willpower has any weight against the tape. That is the first foolishness of men in speculation. They believe persistence will turn a losing position into a winning one, and in doing so they betray the very rule that could have saved them. Why is it that you think you can outlast the market when the market has outlasted empires? This rule, this simple law of survival, is obedience to loss. Not resistance, not denial, not argument. Obedience. Cut your loss. Take it the moment the market shows you that your line of battle is broken. Do not hesitate, do not question, do not invent a reason why tomorrow will be different. The market does not know you exist, so it cannot conspire against you. It simply moves. And if that movement runs counter to your position, then your position is wrong. Do you understand? It is not the market that is wrong, it is you. And when you are wrong, you must not remain wrong. Yet I have seen 1,000 men prefer ruin to admission of error. They would rather carry a losing stock like a stone in their pocket, praying for a reversal, than admit at once that their judgment was mistaken. They cannot stand the sting of being wrong, and so they invite the executioner's blade in slow motion. But the man who follows the rule, the legends never forget, cuts his loss without shame. He does it as naturally as a soldier ducks a bullet. He knows survival is the condition for every future profit. Let me ask you, what good is the greatest opportunity of tomorrow if you are ruined today? When I began in the bucket shops, I won small because I cut small. I had no choice. The ticker moved too fast, the operators too sly, and the leverage too merciless. A hesitation meant elimination. That early schooling was brutal, but it gave me the habit of obedience. I learned not to argue, not to dream, not to plead with the market for mercy. There is no mercy. You either act or you are acted upon. And to act meant cutting my loss the very instant it appeared. Does that sound too simple to be worth your attention? Then I ask you, how many fortunes have been lost because a man thought he was too clever for simple rules? You see, a trader's real enemy is not the market, it is the pride inside him. Pride is the silent killer of speculators. Pride keeps a man chained to a sinking ship, whispering that he cannot be wrong, that the storm will pass. That land is surely just beyond the fog. Pride makes him double his loss rather than double his discipline. And pride blinds him to the rule, the one that legends honor with a devotion the crowd cannot fathom. How many times have you told yourself, just a little longer, just a little more patience, and it will turn? And how many times has that bargain ended in wreckage? I have watched men who studied the market with scholarly care, who calculated every pivot point, who wrote down their plans with precision, and yet, the moment their stock betrayed them, they clung to it like a drowning man clings to driftwood. They believed their preparation excused them from obedience. But the market has no concern for your preparation. It asks only this: when you are wrong, will you get out? And if you will not, then all your knowledge, all your charts, all your experience is worthless. Tell me what use is the best map in the world if the captain refuses to alter course when he sees the rocks? The truth is, profits take care of themselves, but losses never do. This is the law. You need not coddle a winning stock, for it will grow with or without your coaxing. But a losing stock is like rot in the hull. It spreads, it consumes, it drags you deeper. And the only cure is removal, swift and decisive. Yet how many men do the opposite? They sell the winner to secure a tiny gain, and they keep the loser, saying they will not be robbed. They reverse the rule, and then they wonder why their ledger bleeds. Are you guilty of this? Be honest, how many times have you taken the quick profit and carried the long loss? I have said before, and I say again, the market is never wrong, but opinions often are, and the rule the legends follow is to treat each loss as proof of error. They do not quarrel with proof, they accept it. They take the lesson at once, with no argument, and they move to the next play. This is why they last. For in speculation, longevity is victory. The market is not conquered by brilliance, nor by courage, nor by stubborn faith. It is endured, and endurance belongs only to those who never let a single loss grow teeth. The loss is a cub when it appears. If you hesitate, it becomes a lion. Do you want to wrestle lions every week, or would you rather dismiss the cubs while they are harmless? The trader who ignores the rule does not just risk his account, he risks his mind. A man who carries losses carries torment. His thoughts are poisoned by the hope of reversal, by the fear of disaster, by the shame of error. He cannot trade clearly, cannot read the tape, cannot act decisively. Every new opportunity is clouded by the fog of his uncut losses, but the man who cuts at once is free. His mind is clear, his eye sharp, his nerve steady. He can see the next chance and seize it. Do you not see that obedience to the rule is not only protection of your capital, but protection of your sanity? And yet, 9 out of 10, perhaps 99 out of 100 ignore it. They hear it, they nod at it, they repeat it to others, but when the moment comes, they fail. They say, I will just wait for a rally. They say, it cannot go much lower. They say, the market is overreacting. They invent any excuse to justify their delay, and in that delay they are destroyed. If the rule were easy to obey, everyone would be a successful trader. But it is not easy. It is the hardest discipline of all. That is why only legends live by it. So I ask you, do you have the courage to be among them, or will you join the 99% who perish in defiance? Pride destroys traders faster than price does. A man may withstand the wildest swings of the market if he is free of pride, but the moment he lets vanity sit in the saddle, he is finished. Whether it takes a week or a year, the tape can fluctuate, and a disciplined trader can bend with it, but pride is rigid. Pride refuses to bow, and because it will not bend, it breaks the man who clings to it. Tell me, have you ever held on to a losing stock simply because you couldn't bear to be proven wrong? When a trader buys and the market moves against him, the facts are plain. His judgment was mistaken. The price is telling him so every second the tape prints. Yet instead of accepting that truth, most men bristle. They begin to argue with reality, as though the market cares to listen. They say, I am right and the market is wrong. They imagine the crowd has gone mad, that the price action is temporary folly, that soon the market will come to its senses and vindicate them. But the market is never wrong, it simply is. It does not answer to your pride, nor does it concern itself with your comfort. It announces the truth without hesitation, and if you resist it, you pay the price. The average man cannot stand being wrong. To him, admitting a mistake is more painful than losing money. He would rather endure the shrinking of his capital than the shrinking of his ego. He tells himself that he must be patient, that his turn will come, that time will prove him right. But what is he really doing? He is defending his pride at the expense of his fortune. He is fighting not the market, but the wound of being mistaken. And while he fights that private battle, the market keeps moving, indifferent, relentless. Ask yourself, have you ever sat in a loss, not because you believed in the position, but because you could not bear the humiliation of closing it? A man may call it conviction, but conviction rooted in pride is nothing more than stubbornness. True conviction has the discipline to admit when the facts have changed. Pride has no such flexibility. It is blind, deaf, and unyielding. Pride whispers that you are too clever to be wrong, too experienced to be fooled, too wise to be caught. Pride takes a small mistake and magnifies it into ruin, for it will not let you retreat when retreat is the only sane move. And ruin never arrives in a single blow. It creeps in as you defend your error, add to it, justify it, and entrench yourself deeper. Does it not sting to recall how often you could have escaped cheaply if only you had cut your loss instead of clinging to your pride? The market has no respect for ego. It will punish a king and a beggar with equal cruelty if they dare to stand in its way. Yet most traders think they are the exception. They believe they are smarter than the average, tougher than the crowd, destined to win where others fail. This illusion feeds their pride until it grows monstrous. They forget that the tape humbles everyone eventually. And when it does, the proud man does not take the lesson, he takes the wound, and he deepens it. Can you not see that every great fortune lost in speculation has pride at its root? Consider the man who doubles down on a losing stock. He tells himself it is a rational calculation, that he is lowering his cost basis, that he is buying value. But beneath that logic hides a bruised ego. He cannot bear to close the trade at a loss, so he tries to force the market into agreement by adding weight to his position. It is as if he is shouting at the tape, "You must be wrong and I will prove it." But the tape never argues. It simply keeps printing the truth. And while he builds his tower of pride, the ground beneath it collapses. How many times have you seen a man average down until he averaged himself into bankruptcy? Now look at the legends, the men who lasted. They had pride enough to trust themselves when they were right, but none when they were wrong. They could cut a loss without flinching, without self-pity, without shame. They treated error as a fact, not a wound to the ego. They knew that being wrong was inevitable, but staying wrong was a choice, and pride was the only thing that made a man choose it. Do you not admire the man who can take a loss as naturally as breathing, while others suffocate under theirs? I have always said that the first loss is the best loss. Pride tells you to wait, to hold, to defend. But each moment you delay, the loss grows teeth. Soon it is no longer a position, it is a prison. And pride is the jailer who locks the door. You pace the cell, dreaming of reversal, praying for escape, blaming the market, blaming the news, blaming the crowd, but you do not blame yourself, because pride will not allow it. All the while, the simple key lies in your hand: sell, cut, exit. Yet pride whispers, not yet, not like this, not while I can still be right. And so you remain in chains. Have you not felt that prison before? The cruelest part of pride in speculation is that it disguises itself as strength. The trader thinks he is being courageous by holding on, when in truth he is being cowardly. It is fear of admitting error that keeps him there, not bravery. Real courage is in obedience to the rule that demands sacrifice of pride. It takes far more strength to cut a loss and stand bare before the market than to cling to a losing trade out of vanity. But men mistake stubbornness for bravery, and they pay the penalty. Tell me, do you have the courage to seem weak in order to stay strong? It is not price that ruins the trader, for price is only a measurement. What ruins him is his prideful refusal to bow to that measurement. One man may suffer 100 small losses and remain whole, another may take one great loss and be finished. The difference is not the market, it is their pride. The first accepts being wrong as part of the game. The second considers it intolerable, and therefore he defends a single mistake until it destroys him. Which kind of man are you? Pride blinds you to the simplest arithmetic. A 10% loss requires an 11% gain to recover. A 50% loss requires a 100% gain. And yet the man ruled by pride will sit through such losses, telling himself recovery is inevitable. He refuses to see the compounding weight he has chained to his own ankle. The man without pride never bears such weight, because he cuts before it grows heavy. He never needs a miracle, because he never allows disaster. Pride waits for miracles, discipline demands only survival. Which side do you think the legends chose? Even when prideful traders finally capitulate, they do not learn. They blame the market makers, the manipulators, the news, the crooked insiders, anyone but themselves. They say, I was right, but I was too early. They say, the market was irrational. They say, no one could have predicted this. All excuses, all smokescreens for their pride. For if they admitted the truth, they would have to confess that they clung too long, that they disobeyed the one rule that mattered, that they chose their ego over their account. And that truth is too bitter for pride to swallow. The man who would last in speculation must kill his pride every day. Each trade is a new field, and the market is the general. If the general says retreat, then you retreat, whether it flatters you or not. You cannot carry yesterday's glory into today's battle, nor can you shield yourself with your reputation. Pride will whisper that you know better, that your judgment is superior, that this loss is beneath you. But if you listen, you are lost. Pride is the traitor in your camp, the whispering voice that delivers you to defeat while you think you are standing tall. Can you recognize that traitor in yourself, or will you let it betray you again? Hope is the most expensive position on the tape. A man can lose more through hope than through ignorance, for ignorance may make him cautious, but hope makes him blind. When you sit with a losing trade, what keeps you in it? Not analysis, not reason, not fact, only hope. You hope the market will turn, you hope the tide will reverse, you hope tomorrow will undo today. But the market is not a place where hope is rewarded. It is a place where discipline is rewarded. Hope is for gamblers and dreamers. Discipline is for traders. Tell me, have you ever held a stock, not because it showed strength, but only because you hoped it might stop showing weakness? When I began to trade, I thought, like many beginners, that the market had some sense of fairness, that it might grant me relief if I suffered long enough, that my patience would be repaid. That was hope speaking, not the tape. The tape never speaks in the language of mercy, it speaks only in the language of fact. The stock is rising or it is falling. If it rises, you are right. If it falls, you are wrong. It is that simple. Hope muddies that clarity. Hope makes a man invent reasons, fabricate stories, dress up his error in fancy clothes. He says, this company has good prospects, or this is just a correction, or it can't go any lower. None of that comes from the tape. All of it comes from the desperate voice of hope. Have you not heard that voice whisper in your ear? Hope is the costliest of all emotions in speculation, because it has no end. Fear will drive you out eventually. You will sell in panic when the loss grows unbearable. Greed will make you sell when you see profit and hunger for safety. But hope has no bottom. A man can hope all the way to ruin. He can hope until his account is dust and still say, maybe tomorrow. That is why hope is so dangerous. It does not cut itself off. It does not compel you to act. It seduces you into sitting still while the ground vanishes beneath you, and the market takes full advantage of your paralysis. Do you understand now why I say hope is the most expensive position? Consider a man who buys a stock at 50. It falls to 45, and he says it will come back. It falls to 40, and he says, surely it has fallen enough. It falls to 30, and he says, if it just returns to 40, I will get out. It falls to 20, and he says, if it ever touches 30 again, I'll be satisfied. At 10, he no longer speaks of profit. He only prays to escape alive. At 5, he stops looking at the quote altogether, but he still holds, because hope has no end. He never cut the loss, because he never killed the hope. And so the stock, worthless, drags him down with it. This story repeats itself in every generation, with new names, new faces, new tickers, but the same old human weakness. Can you not see yourself somewhere in that man's shoes? Hope makes men treat the market like a moral universe, as if virtue lies in loyalty to a stock, as if patience will be rewarded like piety. They talk of fairness, of cycles, of inevitability. They confuse speculation with fate. But the market owes you nothing. It is not a church. It is not a school. It is not a parent. It is a battlefield. And on a battlefield, hope is the death of soldiers. The man who waits for rescue instead of retreat will be buried where he stood. Yet every day, traders sit and wait for the tape to turn in their favor, as if the tape cared about their prayers. Tell me, do you believe the market knows what you hope for? The crowd lives on hope. You can hear it in every broker's office, in every forum, on every street corner where men discuss their stocks. They do not talk of what the tape shows, they talk of what they wish it would show. They pass around rumors, forecasts, gossip, all soaked in hope. The stock is falling, but they say it is bound to rebound. The trend is broken, But they say it's just temporary. They speak of bottoms, of turning points, of just around the corner. What they mean is, we hope. And that is why the crowd loses. For in the end, the market punishes hope more ruthlessly than anything else. Are you willing to be punished with them? The legends never dealt in hope. They dealt in evidence, in tape, in price. When they were wrong, they cut. When they were right, they sat tight. But never did they sit with a loss in the name of hope. They knew that hope is not a strategy, it is a trap. A trader who obeys the tape may still lose, but he will not be destroyed. A trader who obeys hope will surely be destroyed, because hope tells him to hold on when holding on means certain death. The legends knew that the market is no place for dreamers. Do you not see the wisdom in that coldness? Hope has ruined more men than fear and greed combined, for it disguises itself as virtue. It tells you you're being patient, steadfast, loyal. It dresses up your inaction as strength. But in reality, it is cowardice. It is the refusal to take the pain of a loss, so you postpone it with hope. And the more you postpone it, the larger it grows. The trader without hope suffers small pains and moves on. The trader with hope suffers catastrophic pains that end him. Which trader do you want to be? The cruel irony is that hope often strikes hardest at those who cannot afford it. The man with a small account clings to his trades more tightly because he feels he has no room for error. He cannot afford to be wrong, so when he is wrong, he hopes instead of acting. The loss grows, and the smaller his account becomes, the larger his hope swells. Hope swells until it bursts him. The man with a larger account, if he is disciplined, may cut and survive. But the little man who lets hope rule him is doomed from the start, and yet every generation, the little men march into the market with their hearts full of hope. Can you not see how expensive that is? When you feel hope stirring in your chest, that is the signal to act. The moment you catch yourself saying, "It will come back," that is the moment you must cut. For hope is not born when you are right. It is born when you are wrong. The very presence of hope in your thinking is proof that the tape has already turned against you. The disciplined trader hears that inner voice and knows it for the danger it is. He does not wait for hope to grow. He silences it with the execution of his stop. The undisciplined trader listens, and by listening, he digs his grave. Do you recognize that voice in your own trading? I tell you plainly, hope is the most expensive position because it demands no margin, no capital. It demands your delay. And delay is the costliest thing in the market. Every minute you sit in hope, you surrender opportunity. You cannot take the next play, you cannot seize the next trend, because your money and your mind are chained to the hope that your old mistake will redeem itself. In this way, hope steals not only your capital but your future. It robs you twice, once with the loss you refuse to cut, and again with the gains you never take because you are stuck waiting. How many opportunities have you lost while sitting in hope? Hope keeps men chained to the past while the market marches forward. The tape does not stop to console you, nor does it circle back to rescue you. It prints new truths every day, and only the man free of hope can follow them. The hopeful man is still watching yesterday's price, still waiting for yesterday's entry to be vindicated. He is out of step, out of time, out of luck. The man without hope walks with the tape, never behind it, never waiting for what will not come. And that is why he survives, while the hopeful man perishes. Obedience to loss is the price of longevity. A trader may be clever, he may be bold, he may even be lucky, but none of these qualities will keep him alive in the market year after year. The only thing that keeps him alive is the ability to obey the truth of loss when it shows itself. The tape gives the order, and the trader must salute and execute. Not with complaint, not with hesitation, not with self-pity, simply with obedience. That is the discipline, and that is the toll one must pay to remain in the game. Tell me, do you think a man can live long in speculation if he refuses to pay that toll? Most men think of profit as the key to survival. They say, if I can just make enough, I will last. But profit comes and goes like the seasons. You may win a fortune and lose it the next month if you refuse to bow to loss. Longevity does not come from how much you can make in a single run, but from how much you can preserve in every run. A man who does not obey loss will see his profits vanish like dust in the wind. A man who does obey will live to see another trade, another chance, another opportunity. The difference between the two is not intelligence, not luck, not even courage, it is obedience. Do you see the truth in that? Loss is the teacher in the market, and the trader who ignores his teacher is doomed. Every time you refuse to obey a loss, you are telling the market you know better than it. But the market is always right, and it will correct your arrogance with punishment. The obedient trader accepts the correction at once, pays his fee, and moves forward. The disobedient trader argues, delays, bargains, and in doing so turns a small lesson into a ruinous catastrophe. Which kind of trader do you want to be when the market offers its lesson? The legends understood this better than anyone. They did not pride themselves on their winnings so much as on their survivals. They knew that a fortune earned was meaningless if it could not be kept. They obeyed the rule of loss with a devotion the crowd could not comprehend. To them, cutting a loss was not a humiliation, it was a routine, a necessity as natural as breathing. That obedience was what gave them longevity. They endured when others perished because they never let disobedience pile up into destruction. How many times have you seen a man wipe out his entire fortune in a single season because he refused to take the small loss when it appeared? Longevity in the market is not granted to the brilliant. I have known men with genius enough to calculate every point, every cycle, every pattern, and yet they were gone in a year. Why? Because they would not obey loss. Their knowledge blinded them into thinking they could outwit the tape, and when the tape contradicted them, they stayed put. Their brilliance could not save them from their disobedience. On the other hand, I have seen simpler men, with no great theories, no fancy systems, endure for decades because they obeyed every loss the moment it came. They lived long, not because they knew more, but because they obeyed better. Do you think it is brilliance that keeps a trader alive, or obedience? To disobey loss is to gamble with time. A single act of disobedience may not destroy you today, nor tomorrow. It may even reward you once in a while when the market swings back in your favor. But every act of disobedience is a loaded dice roll. Sooner or later, the market will not forgive you. Sooner or later, the stock will not recover, the position will not bounce, the tide will not turn. And then, the disobedience that seemed harmless yesterday will wipe you out. Longevity demands that you never gamble with time in this way, for the market always wins in the end against the disobedient. Have you ever noticed that the men who get away with it a few times are always the ones who eventually blow up entirely? The obedient trader pays 100 small tolls. He is stopped out here, cut there, pruned again tomorrow. To the casual observer, he looks like he is wasting his capital, giving up too easily, bleeding himself by inches. But watch him over the years, and you will see he is still in the game while others have vanished. His obedience has bought him longevity. He pays small tolls, but he never pays the ultimate one. The disobedient trader, on the other hand, refuses to pay small tolls. He saves his pride, he clings to his losses, and he tells himself he will outlast the setback. He may look strong for a while, but when the great toll is demanded, he pays it all at once, and he is gone. Tell me, which trader is richer in the end, the one who survives, or the one who boasts until he is broken? There is no freedom without obedience. It sounds like a paradox, but in the market it is true. The man who obeys his losses is free to act again tomorrow. The man who disobeys is chained to his mistake until it crushes him. He is no longer a trader. He is a prisoner of his own stubbornness. His money is tied, his mind is tied, his future is tied. All because he would not obey. The obedient trader, though he takes the sting of a loss, walks away unchained, ready for the next chance. That freedom is the true wealth of longevity. Without it, what good is any profit? Many men speak of discipline as if it were an abstract virtue. But discipline in the market is nothing more than obedience to loss. It is not about willpower to hold a position. It is about willpower to cut it. That is the discipline that matters, for every trader can sit tight when he is winning. It takes no strength to let a profit run. The true test of strength is in bowing to loss without hesitation. That act is the foundation of every career that endures. Have you practiced the discipline yourself, or do you still argue with the tape when it contradicts you? You cannot cheat longevity. You may cheat yourself, you may cheat your broker, you may cheat other men, but you cannot cheat the market. It knows whether you obey or not. Every tick is a test, and every disobedience is recorded in your equity. The trader who ignores his losses writes his own death warrant in slow strokes. The trader who obeys keeps the slate clean, ready for tomorrow. That is why some men last 10 years, 20 years, a lifetime in speculation, while others last a season. It is not luck that separates them, but obedience. How long do you want to last? The tape does not conspire, it only reveals. Traders often speak as if the market had malice, as if some invisible hand were watching their moves and taking pleasure in punishing them. They say, the moment I buy, the price falls. The moment I sell, it rises. They imagine the tape has singled them out, mocking them, tricking them. But that is the vanity of men. The market does not know who you are. It does not care whether you eat or starve. It only reflects the sum of all action, and in that reflection, it reveals the truth. The error is not in the tape, but in the mind that reads it.